and welcome to another Lawn Fawn video. Today we are so excited to be introducing our brand new die set, Build-A-Drink Mason Jar Jam and Honey add-on. It's an add-on for our original Build-A-Drink Mason Jar that turns it into a super cute jam or honey jar. And to go along with that, we have our jam and honey sentiments, super cute sentiments and also cute little phrases you can stamp in the labels for this adorable jar. We're also going to be introducing our Daisy Bloom Outline Background Stencil. This is a one-step stencil that gives you a super cute daisy outline. I love that it's a really subtle stencil and you can kind of almost make like your own pattern paper with it. The cards with it turn out so cute. So let's go ahead and check everything out. First up, we are going to be taking a look at the Build-A-Drink Mason Jar Jam and Honey add-on. We have that cute little jar topper, we have a little string and bow, and also some labels. We have a honey stick and some honey, a knife and some jam that you can add to it, and even that cute little raspberry as well. And it's so much fun to mix and match these pieces together to create both jam and honey jars. Now, this is that original Build-A-Drink Mason Jar. That's going to be your base, and then you're going to use all of these little pieces to turn it either into a honey jar like we have here, or into a jam jar like we have here. And of course, you could do all sorts of different flavors of jam by changing up the colors of your cardstock. So here we're just going to layer the kind of frame detail of the mason jar over the base, and that's coming from that original Build-A-Drink mason jar set. And then we can start to layer on the things from the brand new jam and honey add-on. So here is that little jar cover. Isn't that so cute? It's just adorable. And then we have this really fun little string and bow here. So we're going to add some liquid glue to this little string part, and that's going to go right over that little kind of fabric lid. And then you could do it just like this, or you can add this cute little bow too. So it looks like someone tied some twine around the top of the jar. Now here's this little drippy honey piece that you can layer over top of that honey stick if you made it into a honey jar. And then here is the knife. We've die cut that out of metallic cardstock, and you can layer on that little glob of jam, which looks so cute. And then for the raspberry, we have this cute little topper here, and we're just going to layer that behind that little die cut raspberry. Now you can use the label just as this label here, or you can use it just like this. So here is another cute label that you can do, almost like a wraparound label, or you can layer the two together, which is a really cute look as well. And so now we're going to take that kind of more label shaped piece over the wraparound piece, layer that, and then layer that on top of the jar. And I think that is such a cute look. Here you can see it with the cute little raspberry and the knife and also that honey stick. I just love the accessories in this set. Next, we're going to take a look at the jam and honey sentiments. So here we're going to stamp out, hope your day is jam packed with, these are all mix and match sentiments, jam packed with love, or also jam packed with fun. So you can mix and match it depending on the type of card you're going to be making. We also have You're My Jam, which is so cute, or You're So Sweet. Again, you can mix and match to create your perfect phrase, or You're Sweet as Honey. We also have a thanks there, which looks so super cute with this jar. And then we have thanks for being my honey, which is super, super cute, or thanks for being you, which I really love as well. We also have this cute little sentiment that says life is sweeter with you. So you're going to use that you in two different places depending on the sentiments you're going for. Now, these are all of these little phrases that fit perfectly in both of those labels that the mason jar add-on, jam and honey add-on comes with. So we have jam, honey, you're sweet, thank you, happy birthday. We also have sending love, and we have this cute little heart. And of course, we have an exclamation point that you can add on to the ends of your phrases too. Now here I wanted to show you what it looks like when you use some of those phrases in the two different labels that come with the jar. So here is that kind of label shape, and then we're also going to die cut some of that wraparound label too. And so here you can see how they fit in both of them. So you could stamp any of the phrases in the smaller label or in the wraparound label. So you can mix and match them. So there you can see not only could you use the phrase jam and honey, but you can also use these cute little phrases like sending love or happy birthday, etc. around the jar, which I think is a really, really cute look. Next, we're going to check out the Daisy Bloom Outline Stencil. So here we have a standard size piece of paper, 5.5 by 4.25, and we're going to go ahead and layer the stencil over top. And I love that this is a really subtle stencil that no matter what color you put over it, you're going to have the outlines of these daisies in the color of the cardstock that you're stenciling on. So in this case, we'll have white outlines. Now we're using some Ballet Slippers ink here, which is a really light pink for a really subtle look. I think this would be really pretty to do like a rainbow all across it. You can also add a little bit of the highlight to the center of the flowers, just so add a darker color towards all of the centers, and that looks really, really cool too. So I am just in love with the stencil and the pretty subtle background and texture that it gives to cards. And here's a peek at what it looks like when you remove the stencil. So cute, so pretty. And next up, Shari is going to make a honey card. So take it away, Shari.
So here are all the pieces for my card I'm creating today. Let's talk about the dies I'm using, which is the Build a Drink Mason jar, as well as the new Build a Drink Mason jar add-on that's jam and honey. I'll also bring in the little bee from the brand new Build a Bee dies. And I'm going to be using some flowers from the Big Blossom flowers. So you can see all of my pieces are cut out here, but first I want to make some honey for my honey jar. And I'm going to be doing that by adding some gold stencil paste to a piece of sunflower cardstock. So I just made sure this piece was big enough to cut the jar and the little honey drips that will go on my honey dipper. And I am just putting a layer of this gold paste all over. So I'm just checking to make sure that my jar is going to get cut out of there, making sure it's nice and even, and then I will set this aside to completely dry. While that's drying, I can assemble some of my other parts of the card, starting with the Big Blossom flowers. And of course, I made these look like daisies, so we have white petals, we have sunflowers for the centers, and then I used some cilantro for the stems. For the leaves, I actually used algae, so I have two different colors of green going on. Then I need to build my bees, so I will put this black piece on the back. That's going to fill in the little eyes and the mouth. Then we can take this piece that's going to frame up the face and give us our little antennas and add that to the front. I just think that little face is so adorable. Then for the body, we're going to layer over the piece with the stripes, which is cut from black cardstock, onto the solid piece. That's going to give us our cute little bee stripes. And then I can just add the head right on top of the body. Now for the wings, you can see I have two sets of wings cut there, and that's just because I wanted to be extra fancy and layer two of them together. So one is cut from mist cardstock and one is vellum. I'm actually going to cut the vellum one apart. That way I can reassemble these and offset them so that you see the two layers of the wings. So you can see how I'm tilting those a little further upward so we have the two layers of the wings. Then I will just add some glue right in the center and add them to the back of my bee. And look how adorable he is. And of course, I will assemble the second bee in the same way. There's also this little flower that's part of the Build a Bee die set, and I'm going to be using that on my card today as well. So once my gold paste is dry, I need to make some honey for my jar. There is this little die that is the drips of honey that goes on the honey dipper. So I will cut that and the entire jar out of my gold paper. Now for the honey, you could just have a full honey jar if you wanted, but I want to layer it over a piece of mermaid cardstock, that's the jar, and kind of cut it short so you can see both colors. So I'm just going to line this up and I'm going to use my little topper here that I cut from some Giddy for Gingham paper so it looks like fabric across the top. And I'm going to look at my little label here and just draw a line with a pencil where I want to cut this. And I'm just going to use my scissors to cut this off at a slight little arch so it mimics the shape of the round jar. Then I will add my glue to the back of my piece that has the gold paste, add that to my jar cut from mermaid cardstock. Before I add my cute little gingham topper to the jar, I'm going to add the details that can go on this. So the jam and honey dies have this little string. I cut that from peacock cardstock, so it looks like we've tied this piece of fabric around the top of the jar to make it look nice and pretty. And there's also the die that cuts the little bow, like we've tied it around. So I'm just adding those first, and then when I add this to the jar, I'm actually going to use some thin foam squares so that it has a little bit of dimension off the background. If you did not have thin foam squares, you could also just add a couple pieces of cardstock to get a little bit of height, but maybe not as much as a normal foam square. And I just think this gives it a little more dimension, giving it a little shadow underneath this pattern paper piece. Now for the little label, I decided to stamp the words thank you. This is from the Jam and Honey Sentiments stamp set. You can see we have all those sentiments there to choose from, but I thought it would be fun to kind of make the label part of the sentiment for the card. And I am putting a little bit of liquid glue on the back of my thin foam squares since I'm gluing this to that paste. I just want to make sure it sticks down really well. Now for my background pieces, I'm using some peach cardstock and a scallop stitch oval and some of the Giddy for Gingham 12 by 12 paper and a stitched rectangle to cut out the background piece for my card. And I'm just lining this up so it's nice and centered because I love a perfectly centered gingham. Then I can add this to my card base. And before I start gluing everything down, I just wanted to figure out the placement of the elements of my card. So this is how I kind of want it to be laid out. Nothing is glued down yet. I am going to go ahead and add that shiny stencil paste honey onto my little honey dipper here. And then what I like to do when I kind of have my layout here, I will take a picture with my phone. And that way I can always go back and reference it. So I will go ahead and add that peach oval, which makes a really nice focal point for all of the elements of the card. And I really love that peach color with all these other soft colors. Then for my jar, I'm using some foam squares, so I have some dimension off of that oval, and it is nice and popped up. Of course, I have my leaves, so I have two big leaves and two small leaves. I'm putting these two on the left side. It just helps really balance out this card when I add the flowers to the right side. And of course, we have our little honey dippers. So I'm going to support the end of that with a foam square and then some glue on the handle since that's going right onto the jar. And then, of course, we have our cute little bees. I want to pop those up as well so they have dimension just like the honey jar. So I'm putting one in the top left corner. The other one will go in the bottom right, but I want to add my flowers first. And I'm just going to add those directly to the background with some liquid glue. And the nice thing about these flowers, even though their stems look kind of short, we're going to cover up the ends with the leaves and the other bee, and it's going to look like they had nice long stems. So I'll just add both of my flowers in here, and then I can kind of cover up where the two come together with the other leaves. And you can see now how those green leaves on both sides really kind of balance out the composition. Then we can add our other little bee down here at the bottom. I just think he's so cute. And I did adjust this one a little bit, give him a little more tilt, but he was easy to pop up with that foam square. Now for the rest of the sentiment, I'm using that same Jam and Honey sentiment set to stamp out for being sweet as honey so that the whole sentiment says, thank you for being sweet as honey. And I will use a sentiment banner to trim this out. And this is going to go right along the bottom underneath my little composition. So I will add some foam strips to the back of my sentiment banner so that this can be popped up as well. And I'll just tuck that right underneath that bee at the bottom, just making sure it doesn't cover up the sentiment. And then I want to add my little hearts. So I'm using the new Sunset Orange cardstock for my hearts, using the Hearts and Stars skinny tag die to cut out the hearts, and I have 3 different sizes. And I'll just work on their placement here, and once I get them where I want them, I will go back through and glue them all down with a little bit of liquid glue. And I actually almost forgot that little flower from the Build a Bee die set, and so I pulled it out trying to figure out where I want it to be, and over here in the bottom left is where I decided to put it, and I felt that it really balanced out the white daisies on the right side, just tucking that right in there with those leaves. And then, of course, we need our final glitter touches. So I added glitter to the centers of the flowers and all of the hearts. I also added a little bit of glitter to the string tied around the top of the jar and the tops of the bee's antennas. And then this card is all finished. I love that shimmery honey in the honey jar, and those bees are just so adorable, and I just think this card turned out so cute.
This card is so gorgeous, Shari. I love the shimmery honey and the super cute bees around. It just makes me smile. So now that we've made a honey card, we're going to go ahead and make a jam theme card. And we are recreating a card by Grace today. So thank you so much, Grace. And we've gone ahead and die cut that original Build-A-Drink mason jar. We've cut the base and the frame, and we've die cut that twice because we're going to do two different types of jam. So this one is going to be some grape jam. So we are going to be starting off with some Distress Oxide inks, and we're starting off with seedless preserves because it's in the name. So we thought that's perfect. Then we're going to bring in Dusty Concord to kind of darken up the bottom. And then we'll bring in the Villainous Potion to add a little bit more of, a little shadow to the edges of the jar. Doesn't that look so pretty? It's so fun to mix and match ink colors to create like your own little custom jam that you've added to your jar. I just think it's so much fun. Now to add some texture to this jar and really make it look like you're looking through glass into some jam in a jar, we're going to spray some clean water with a spray bottle and then use some paper towel to pick up the excess water. And doesn't that look so pretty? We're also going to be doing some splatters too. So we're going to take the darkest color we use, which in this case was Villainous Potion. We're just going to put that on the mat and add some water to it and mix it up to create a paint and then tap the paintbrush to create little splatters all around. And again, this is adding texture and making it feel like it really looks like jam. So now that we've created some grape jam, we are going to be creating some raspberry jam. So we're going to use Worn Lipstick and Festive Berries here. And so we're going to cover it with our lightest color first, kind of letting it fade out to white at the top. And then we're going to add our darkest color at the bottom, just like we did with the grape one. And you'll see that it gives it that really, really pretty kind of texture. And I like that gradient look on it. Now we're going to bring in one more darker color here. And that's Lumberjack Plaid. And again, that's just to give that little shadow along the edges that we did with that darker purple earlier. Now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to spray our water. We're going to pounce our paper towel to pick up the water, and you can see that texture there. We're going to take the darkest color that we used, which was that Lumberjack Plaid, and we're going to smear that, spray it with water, mix that up, and then we're going to tap our paintbrush to create splatters all along, again, to give it this really fun texture and really make it feel like we're creating our own little custom jam. Now we're going to set these jars aside to dry and we're going to start working on a background here. So we're using ballet slippers and fresh lavender, and we're going to do one color on one side and the other color on the other, and they're going to line up with the two different kinds of jams that we created. I thought this was so cool how Grace did this on her card. So we've got the pink on one side and the purple on another, and then where they overlap, we're just going to mix and match back between the colors so that there's a nice blend between the purple and the pink. Then we can set this aside to dry and we're going to go back to working on our jam jars. And so we're just going to be layering these frames over top, and that's going to give the frame detail, but it's going to be like as if there was the glass you're looking through the jar, right? So that's why we did them in the same colors. And I think that's a really, really cute look. So we're going to layer the one frame over the other one, and then we'll do the same thing with the purple one. Now that we've filled our jars with jam, we can start working on the lid and the decorations for them. And that's where we're going to bring in this new add-on, and we're going to die cut some of the new Giddy for Gingham paper. We're going to use that little lid topper. We're going to die cut the little bow and the string, and we're going to use the pink and the purple to go along with the flavors of jam that we created. Isn't that so cute? And then we've die cut the bow there out of some kraft cardstock so that it really looks like twine around there. Then we're going to take a white gel pen and just add some little details on to the jar toppers. And then we can add some liquid glue to the back of the twine pieces, and we're going to layer those onto the little jar toppers. Isn't that so cute? Look at that. It's just adorable. So we'll add some more liquid glue there. We'll layer that on, and then we can add our little bow piece. And so we're going to have the bow on either side so that when you have them next to each other, the bows kind of help fill in the space on either side of the card. We added some white gel pen details to the little twine pieces so everything matches, and then we can add some tape runner to the back of these and layer it onto the jar, and I'm like smiling. I just think it's so cute. Oh my gosh, I just love it. Okay, so now we're going to start working on the rest of the card, and we're going to be die cutting this cute little scalloped rectangle here, and we've die cut that out of some white cardstock, and we are going to bring back this piece that we ink blended earlier, and we're going to add some tape runner to the back of that, and then layer that onto this piece so that it has that really pretty scallop detail. We're also going to trim down some kraft cardstock to be a ground, kind of like a table for these jam jars. And so we're just going to add some tape runner to the back of that and layer that. It's about half the size of that inked blended panel. Then we're going to also die cut some of the Giddy for Gingham paper in this beautiful rainbow. And this rainbow is absolutely gorgeous. And we've die cut that with the largest of the stitch rectangles. So it's 5.5 by 4.25. And we're going to be layering this little piece over top. I thought that was such a fun way to use this scalloped rectangle. So we're going to add some tape runner to that. And we're just going to layer that in the middle of the card. And that way we're going to have the rainbow peeking out of the top and the bottom, but we'll have that really pretty scallop detail. And so we can just take our scissors and just trim off any of the excess that's hanging off to the side. And you'll see what a cute look this is and what a fun way it is to use a scalloped rectangle on a card. And now we've brought in our jam jars. Isn't that so cute? And how we've got the ink blended purple and the pink that goes along with the jars? Next up, we wanted to create labels for these jars that were the flavors, the raspberry and the grape. And so to do that, we're going to take out some of our other Build-A-Drink items. So there's the Build-A-Drink boba that has those cute little boba pieces, Build-A-Drink cocktail that has this little sprig here, and then also the mason jar add-on we've been featuring in this video has the cute raspberry. And so what we're going to do with the boba pieces and the sprig is that we are going to turn them into grapes. And you could, of course, do this just with a little tiny die cut circle too and any kind of leaf in your stash, but it's kind of fun that in the Build-A-Drinks, there's these items that we could turn into something else. And so we're going to take our Copic markers here and just blend them out, adding dark to light to create these fun little grapes, and then also the little sprig for the grapes, and then the top of the raspberry. And then we'll use some more markers here to color in the raspberry. And I love using markers to color in die cuts. It's a fast way to add color and make them feel really special. Now that we've added color to these pieces, we're going to die cut that little label shape piece, and we're going to die cut that from some white cardstock, and then we're going to layer these pieces onto there so that it looks like the little printed picture on a jam jar. It's going to be so cute. So here we have the raspberry one, and then for the grape one that we've kind of improvised, we're going to add the little sprig and then just layer the little circles in a cluster to make them look like grapes, which I think is super, super cute. Now that we've got those, we can start to add them onto the jar. And this to me is where the magic happens. Like now it really feels like a jam jar. Isn't that cute? So we're going to layer those onto the center of the two jars. And then we're going to bring these jars into our card. And so we're going to be layering that in the center of the card. So we're going to add some tape runner to the back of these jars. And then we're going to tilt each jar and overlap them just a little bit. Now this card is super cute, just like this. Add a sentiment and it's done, but we wanted to add some extra things because it's fun. So here we have our brand new Make Lemonade stamp set, and we've got the little mice with the baseball caps. And then we also have an older set called Let's Toast, and we went ahead and stamped and colored and die cut some pieces from this set. The little mice are so cute with their baseball caps. I just think it's going to be adorable with the jam. And then that toast is so fun. It has a solid stamp where you could stamp the jam on it, which I think is just adorable. So we're going to layer the mice in, and one of the mice is going to hold this little piece of toast, and then the other one is going to hold the knife that's included in the set. So we've got this little like glob of jam that you can add to the knife, and then we also have the nice knife piece, that is very hard to say, that we're going to die cut out of some metallic cardstock. And then for this piece here, we're going to color it with the same markers that we colored the raspberry so that everything coordinates really nicely. And so there you can see we're just going to bring in those markers, add some tape runner to the back, and then you can layer it onto the knife. And look how cute that is. So it's going to look like that jam was added to the toast with that knife. It's just adorable. And now I really wish I had some jam and toast because this is just too cute. And then this little guy has his arms in perfect position where it really looks like he's holding that knife. Now, the last thing we needed was a perfect jam pun. So we're going to use the jam and honey sentiments, and we're going to use You're My Jam. And we're going to be stamping that out in some dough ink. It's a really soft card, so we thought it'd be nice to use a softer color. And then once we have that stamped, we're going to go ahead and take a sentiment banner, and we're going to line it up with one side of the sentiment because the other side's going to end up being trimmed off. We can hold it in place with some low tack tape, and then we'll run it through the die cut machine, and we'll have this cute little sentiment cut out. Then we can add some foam squares to the back of the sentiment, and we'll layer it onto the card, and then we can use our scissors there to just trim off any of the excess. And then here we have a standard size card base at 5.5 by 4.25, and we can layer this whole panel on top. And then last but not least, we're going to add a few more little white gel pen details onto those little fruit die cuts so that it matches all the other white gel pen details that we added onto the card. And now this card is all done. Isn't that so cute? This card is my jam. It is just adorable. It is so fun. And it's so much fun to think of all the different flavors of jam or honey that you could add into the jar. Now we are going to be creating a shaker card next. And so we've gone ahead and die cut the frame of the mason jar and the base of the mason jar. And we're going to be doing some blending just like we did in the other card. So we thought that turned out so cute. It looks like this fun berry jam. And so we're going to be using the same colors for this card. Then, just like before, we are going to spray some clean water onto this piece, pick it up with a paper towel, and then we're going to take our darkest red color, we're going to smear it onto the craft mat, and then we can add some water to that to create a paint, mix it up with our paintbrush, and then tap the paintbrush to create splatters all over these pieces. Now we're going to set these pieces aside to dry and we're going to start working on our fun shaker. So we're going to be die cutting the base there piece out of some acetate and then the frame piece out of white cardstock. And we have die cut 8 of these frame pieces and we're going to be stacking them to create a shaker. And I love that about all the different Build-A-Drink items is that you can make shakers out of any of them. And we have these super cute new little shaker fillers that are going to be perfect for this jar. So we're adding some liquid glue to one of the pieces and then we're going to layer another one of the frame pieces on top. And we're going to continue that through all of these 8 pieces. And that's going to create a really tall piece that's going to help our shaker pieces be able to move inside. It's going to create almost like a little well. We went ahead and layered all 8 of those frame pieces. And now we're going to add some liquid glue onto this and we're going to add this acetate piece on top to help create our shaker window. So here you see we're going to layer that on just like that and make sure that it's nice and secure. And that's going to be our little window piece for our shaker pieces to move around inside. Now here's the frame that we inked up earlier, and we're going to add some liquid glue to this piece and then layer that over top of the acetate window. That way it finishes off the whole thing and it has that beautiful ink blending that we did earlier, and you'll see how that's going to look now. So we've got our decorated frame piece, our acetate, and then our 8 plain frame pieces that are creating the height for our shaker bits. Next, we're going to flip this piece over and we're going to be using an anti-static powder tool to get rid of any of the excess stickiness that might be on the inside of this jar. And this really helps shaker pieces really move around. So we're just going to add this powder there, right in there, and that's going to remove any of that excess tackiness and really help your pieces move around. It also reduces some of the static too, which is great. So here we are taking out some of these new tiny treasures, and I love these ones so much. There are mixed fruit pieces, and you'll see that there's a ton of little fruit pieces in here that are so super cute. And for a little sparkle, we're going to be adding some of our new sequins in here. So these are the iridescent sequins, and I think I put them in almost every shaker because they're just so pretty. And so we're going to sprinkle a few of those in there. And then we're also going to sprinkle some chunky glitter inside too. Chunky glitter, again, is going to add that sparkle, and it's always fun to add just a little pinch to your shakers because it really adds that magic into the whole thing. So we're just going to add a little pinch right in the middle. You can see how cute this is looking already. Now, this is the back of the jar. We've got the acetate on the table. We've got the back of the jar here. We're going to add some liquid glue onto this, and then that base piece that we ink blended earlier, we're going to put that on the back. And that way, when you look through this whole thing, you're going to see that jam ink blended piece in the back and all the fun little shaker pieces in front. Here, we're just going to take an acrylic block and put it on top to add a little bit of weight and make sure that that glue is super, super dry before we flip it over and start playing with the shaker. And look at how cute that is. Isn't that fun? So here we have the Giddy for Gingham paper, and we're going to be start to die cutting all of these mason jar add-on pieces. And so we're going to die cut out of white cardstock, out of some raspberry cardstock, and also that really pretty pink gingham. So we're going to add some liquid glue behind the twine piece that we die cut from the raspberry cardstock and layer that onto the gingham cardstock piece here with the lid. And then we can add that cute little bow as well. And then we can start working on some of the label pieces. Oh, first of course, we've got to add the jam topper on top of the jar. Look at that. Isn't that cute? Oh, it's just adorable. Okay, and now we're going to go ahead and stamp onto this piece here. And so we're going to be stamping the word jam so that it really looks like a jam jar. And we're going to stamp that in some black licorice ink right on the center of the label piece. And then we're going to layer these 2 pieces together, which I think is such a cute look. So here's kind of the wraparound piece that's going to match our gingham. We're going to layer the label piece over top of that, and then we can layer that whole thing onto the jar. And here you can start to see all of those little shaker pieces move around in the jar. Isn't that so pretty? I love the little clay pieces mixed with the sequins and the glitter. It just looks gorgeous. Now, this is that daisy bloom outline background that we created at the beginning of the video. It was like the perfect background for this card, so we're going to use that for here. And then here we're going to be using our Make Lemonade add-on. It has a really cute sentiment in it that's going to go really well with the jam. It says, life is sweeter with you. So we went ahead and lined that up in the Misty tool. We can pick it up with the Door of the Misty, and then we're going to be inking that up in some black licorice ink and stamping that right onto this ink blended panel. And the Life is Sweeter with You just goes so cute with this jam jar. Then we can add some adhesive to the back of our shaker jar and layer that on to this base piece. And look how cute that is looking. And honestly, you could leave it just like this, but we thought it would be fun to use some of the fruits that are included in both the original mason jar and this mason jar add-on. And so we're die cutting the blueberries from the original mason jar and then the raspberries from this new add-on. And we're kind of thinking of this as mixed fruit jam since we use those mixed fruit little cake pieces inside. And so having the raspberries and blueberries I think is going to be really cute together. And so the raspberries have like a detail piece that goes in front of a base piece, and we're going to layer those two together. And then the raspberries, of course, have their little raspberry toppers that we're going to layer behind the raspberries. And then we can layer these around the jar. And this is really fun because you could create these jam jars and just shop your stash for all your little die cut fruits and layer them all around. And it just looks so super cute. And then for a finishing touch, we're going to take out these other new little tiny treasures hearts, and they're these cute little clay hearts, and we're going to layer them all around this card. So there's one at the little bow, which is so super cute, and then we're going to put them all around the jam jar just to kind of add some extra detail and go along with the Life is Sweeter with You kind of love theme and add these little hearts on there. So we're adding liquid glue and then just layering these little pieces. And so I love these pieces because you can use them as shaker bits or as fun little decoration. Now this is a standard size card that's 5.5 by 4.25. So we have a card base here. We're going to layer the whole panel on top of that. And now this card is all done and you can see how cute it is with those little shaking fruit pieces inside. Like this would make someone smile. I can't wait to send this to someone. It is just so cute. I love the little sparkle that you get from the sequins and the glitter in there too. And this card is just so much fun. And of course you could create a shaker card that was a honey card or all sorts of different kinds of jam. It's just adorable and such a blast to create with. And next up, we have some incredible cards by the design team. And first up, we have this super cute blueberry themed card by Tammy. Isn't that just adorable? And I love the little mice there too. Then next up, we have a really pretty daisy bloom card by Audrey. And you can see she added some highlights to the centers of the flowers. And I think it looks so pretty with our new Build-A-Bee. This card by Mindy is so much fun. And it's the one that inspired us to make ours today. And I love how she added the strawberries all around it. This card here by Rebecca is so much fun, and I love that the honey jar is perfect to go along with the new Build-A-Bee. And then this card is so much fun with the fun little raspberries and the cute little mouse. It's just so fun with the knife with the jam on it. I just love it. This card here by Elise is adorable, and I love how she added strawberries into her fun mixed fruit jam. And then this is the card by Grace that inspired us to make ours, and I think it's just so pretty, and I love the beautiful inking she did on her jam jars. This card by Letitia uses the new Daisy Bloom outline, and I love how she layered sequins behind her scripty hello. And then Lynette made some gorgeous Daisy Bloom outline cards here. I think it's so fun with the cute little flowers she added around her scripty hello, and then her scripty smile is so pretty, and I love how she added the highlight to the centers of the flowers. So we cannot wait to see all of your amazing jam and honey cards, so make sure to share them with us. Thank you so much for watching today, and I hope you have an absolutely amazing day. Bye!